This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so we are continuing with Shar, the gateway of Yichud HaMaseh, which is focusing our actions, and it's Perek Hey, the fifth chapter. So it's Book Hey, chapter 5, and those in Sefaria, it's 51. Steve, you have the Sefer, right?
Yeah, 505.
Okay. I'm not sure, but I'll take your word for it. But we did learn last week. I don't know if you were with us last
Yeah,
week.
I watched it.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes me feel good about posting it then. All right.
Thank you.
So, David, if you're in Safari, it's 5:51. Okay. So now he's going to go into, so he was talking about the entrapments, the convincing that the Yetzer Hara tries to do. So first it was attacking the fundamentals of our faith. And once one has warded that off, then he gets very sophisticated. He gets very, very frum, very, very religious, very Torah oriented. And he tries to show, based on the Torah, how we should veer off somewhat. And they're going to be actually 12 different arguments that are made, and he'll show the fallacy of each of those arguments. But first, a little introduction, v'ra'ui, and it's proportion of erata that we should explain now, min ha'chelik hasheni hazeh dimyonim. Some different examples of the second category. Again, the first category was attacking the foundations of belief in God, belief in Torah, belief in afterlife. Now I believe all that. But then there are going to be arguments that will be made. Shilamdu mehem shar ha'inyanim. And from that we can learn. We'll give some, and then we can then understand other enticements that it makes. And a person needs to be careful, to be wary of these, and to know the answers. Most importantly, ki ein inyan me'inyanei hatova, right? Because there is nothing good in the world, elim yeshlo pega sheyafsidoto, which doesn't have some detracting, meaning some things that can ruin it. So even if one has that faith in God, the faith in Torah, the faith in the mission of Israel, the faith in what the Torah does for us, but nevertheless, there are ways that it can be subverted. And if you're aware of what these enticements are and what these manners of trying to detract from our good actions, if we know what they are, we can be careful. And if one only knows about the positive, but is not on watch for that which can take that which detracts, so then one is very, very vulnerable. And one of the Hasidim would say to his disciples, limdu harat chila livadel mimenu. First learn the bad to stay away from it. And only then, once you have that in place, can you learn the good and to do it. As the pasuk says in Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah, niru lachem nir. You got to first plow the field, prepare the field, get rid of all the rocks, get rid of all of the thorns. V'al tizru'u el kotzim, and then don't go planting on the thorns. So there needs to be fertile ground, and we need to understand the different ways that we can be subverted, right? And then we can make sure to stay on track. And Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai said, "Le'inyan hona'at amidot va'mishkalim." This is very interesting. The tractate Baba Batra deals with a lot of business laws, business dealings, and weights and measures. And therein are stated many ways that people try to cheat in order that we can be careful and to make sure that that doesn't happen to us or to anyone else. And in introducing that, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, "Oy li im omer, oy li im lo omer." Right? Darned if I do, darned if I don't. Woe to me if I will spell out these illicit practices, and woe to me if I will not spell out these illicit practices. Im Omer, if I'll spell it out, people say, oh, I never thought of that. That's a great idea. Let me alter my measures in such a way, and no one will know. So that's the danger Im Omer, if I were to say it. Shema Yilmadu Ramayim, people who want to cheat will learn and say, oh, that's a great idea. Im Lo Omer, but if I don't spell it out, Shema Yomru HaRamayim, then those cheaters who know this already will say, they don't know about this one. This one we could use with impunity. Ein Tamidei Chachamim B'kiyim B'maseh Yadeinu. We're a few steps ahead of them. The sages are not aware of our activities, and therefore they will apply and employ these activities. But Amru, it's sort of like when you have the hackers and you have those who are trying to protect us from hackers, and it's an ever increasing battle, right? They plug this up, then they find this area of weakness, right? This vulnerability, and it's a constant thing. In the end, he said, Amra, I'm going to say it. Umehai Kra Amra. And that was based on the following pasuk. The pasuk says in Hosea, Ki Yesharim Darchei Hashem. The ways of God are Yesharim. The ways of God are straight, are good. Tzadikim, the tzadikim yelchubam, the righteous will go on those paths. Uposhim, and others who want to sin, yikashlubam, they will stumble on that, right? And therefore, right, the tzadikim will learn, will go on the path and learn not to cheat, and those sinners, they'll stumble, right, because they'll learn even how to cheat even more. But there's always going to be those who are going to distort things, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't go ahead and teach what's important to be taught. My father, Elohim, used to always say, you do what's right. If someone's going to misinterpret it, that's on them, not on you. When I was living in Israel, so my boys, all the boys were born in Israel, and we had bar mitzvahs coming up. Thank God we were blessed to have 5 bar mitzvahs of our 5 boys. The older 3 were in Israel. The younger 2 of the 5 boys were here in the States. So I mentioned to my dad that, I'm not sure if I feel a little bit uneasy sending invitations to relatives in the States who I know are not going to come. And, I don't want it to look like I'm looking for, I'm trying to raise some money for my kids' bar mitzvah fund over here. I'm looking to get some checks from them, some money for the, as gifts to my kids for their bar mitzvah. And my father said to me, he said, tell me, why do you want to send the invitation? So I want them to know I'm having a simcha, that I'm thinking about them. Exactly. So you send the invitation, and they'll take it as they do. You're sending it with the best of intentions. Families should know. Families should be asked to join in, right? You want to share with them. If they decide to send a check, beautiful. If they decide not to, beautiful. But you do what's right, and then don't worry if someone is going to take it and is going to divert it a little bit. Hello, Carol. Good to see you. Okay, so we are at 5-5. Where are we now? 53? 54? You with us? Good. Okay. So now let us begin. V'omer. Ki kol ma shekdamnu zichro b'shar hazeh. All that we said earlier on in this shar, this gate number 5. Mima shemisapech oto yitzar l'adam. Those doubts that the Yetzer Hara tries to bring us when it comes to foundations of our faith. If they're not able to bring doubts onto us through that, right? So, right, when that happens, right, so we need to counter that, right? And we'll show how it's untrue. When we see how we could take away his proofs, when he sees that he can't stand against you, and that he can't undermine those foundations of faith. Yashuv lepatchotcha ulahatcha benafshecha. Now he's going to go for your soul. He's going to try to, within your belief of the Torah shebichtav, of the written Torah, and of the oral Torah, and of the reward, and of God's involvement, with your belief of all that, he'll seek to divert us in different ways. Number one, V'yomer he'll say to you, Kama ani sameach b'inyanecha shalamunatcha tova v'livcha shalem lelokim. Right? You're great. You're wonderful. I'm so happy with who you are, with your faith, and your heart is full with Hashem. Right? You are so aligned with Hashem. Ukvar higata mimalot hachesed mashligia elav zulatcha bidorecha. You are unique, right? No one else in your generation has reached this level, right? Like you, right? Of your trust in Hashem, your appreciation of God, what God has done for you. V'yesh bo yoter midai mehodatcha levorei al tovato v'chasdo. And you've done enough, right? You've done so much in showing your thanks to God for the good and his chesed. But don't forget about the people, right? You've got to also make sure that you are showing appreciation. You've got to be good in the eyes of everyone. You've got to work on that. That's very, very important. You've got to now start to do some of your obligations to people. Because you know, right? You know that through them, they are the agents through which comes your benefit or your harm. It's clear that when they are happy with you, when they are proud of you, when they think highly of you, then that will bring you then glory. You'll get honor. Ubihit katzpam alecha. But if they're angry with you, then that's going to cause you to be lacking. It's going to hurt you. Al kain, therefore, hishtadel, you've got to put your efforts, b'mashi yafik ritzonam. You have to make sure that you are appreciated by people, that people like you. Do the things that make them happy. V'timsachem beinayim. You have to make sure that you are finding favor in their eyes, and as always, they'll bring a proof for it from the sages themselves. As Rabotenu Omrim, as our sages say, Zichron Levracha, blessed memory, Avot Gimel Yud, this is in Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, chapter 3, a Mishnah 10, Kol Sheruach Habriot Nochemenu, Ruach HaMakom Nochemenu. Right? This is an interesting idea. Right? You know, everyone always wants to know, is God happy with me? Right? You know, that's like the $1 million question. Is God happy with me? Is God happy with what I'm doing? Right? Is God happy with me? Is God pleased with me? So the Mishnah says, easy way of figuring it out. Kol sheruach habriot nochemenu. If people are pleased with you, if people feel that you're doing good, if people feel that you are good, then ruach hamakom nochemenu. That's the best barometer. If ruach habriot nochemenu, if people, how do they translate in Sefaria nochemenu? People are at ease with you. If you find favor in their eyes, how do they translate that? Let me get an English Pirkei Avos. Art Scroll says it. If the spirit of one's fellows is pleased with him, okay? If people are pleased with you, then it means Hashem is pleased with you. So therefore, the Eitzah says, what do you got to do? You got to make sure that you are pleasing to people, that people are pleased by you, and that's where you have to put your efforts there. You're doing great with God, right? But now you've done what you need to do with God. Now you've got to redirect to make sure that Ruach HaBriot, the spirit of people, is pleased with you. If that's how he comes at you, Hashev Alav, then this is what you should return to him. This is your return volley. This should be your response. Umayo ili Beitratzot el Chalash Kamoni. Right? What will be gained by my working to find favor in the eyes of those who are chalash, who are weak, like I am? Those who have no ability to help me or to hurt me. The pasuk says, "Chidu lachem min adam." Don't hold back. Don't be afraid of a person. Asher neshamo bapo, someone who has the breath in his nose, meaning that his life is dependent on his next breath, right? And no one knows if we're going to have, if that person will have their next breath, and therefore, ki bameh nechshav hu, right? What is his importance, right? And therefore, you should not put your trust in him. You should not be afraid of this person. Now, we're going to see more in a moment. We're not saying you should be a jerk. The Torah commands us. We have bein adam lamakom and bein adam lechavero, right? We have to treat, right? It's a mitzvah to treat people in a respectful, proper way. It's a great mitzvah to do chesed for people. I always point out, it says in the first bracha of Shmona Esrei, when we're asking Hashem, bring the geula, bring the redemption to the children, the descendants of the patriarchs, right? So what do we say? What does God remember about the patriarchs? It says, v'zocher chazdei avot. God remembers the chesed that the avot did, that the patriarchs did. It doesn't say that God remembers their devotion to him, right, and their spirituality. It says God remembered their chesed, the chesed that they did. And it's interesting to note when we say the Birchat HaTorah, the blessings on Torah study in the morning, page 16 in the art scroll that we use here at Shul. So it mentions there the Mishnah or Braita in Shabbos, which says there are 10 things that a person eats the fruits in this world, and the Karen, the principle, is intact in the world to come. And it lists 10 things, and of these 10 things, the vast majority are bein adam lechavero, between person to person, interpersonal. Kibud avim, honoring parents. Gemilut chasadim, right, acts of kindness. Coming to the Beit Midrash, being there early and staying late. Okay, now that's besides Talmud Torah. That can go either way, right? On one hand, it might be encouraging others to do so. It might be the davening and the learning there. Hachnasat orchim, that's clearly in the category welcoming guests, person to person. Bikor cholim, visiting the sick, interpersonal. Hachnasat kala, bringing a bride to the canopy, right? That's interpersonal. Ve'adam lechavero. Levayat hamet, funerals, escorting the dead to their burial place. Iyun tefillah, okay, that's more spiritual, right? Being careful with one's prayers. Hava'at shalom bein adam lechavero, bringing peace between one person and another, right? Certainly interpersonal. And Talmud Torah keneged kulam. So of these 10, we have Talmud Torah, which is us and God. We have tefillah, us and God. And we have, let's say, going to the shul early and late, us and God. The other 7 are between us and us, person to person. Bein adam lechavero. So he's not saying, be a jerk. Not saying don't be nice to other people. We have to be nice to other people, right? That's a mitzvah. And one of the greatest mitzvahs we have is to make a Kiddush Hashem, to sanctify God's name and not to desecrate God's name. And we have that opportunity wherever we're walking around and dealing with people. Certainly, if we are representing as a Jewish person, we have this constant opportunity of making a Kiddush Hashem, and we say of sanctifying God's name. I would say the ways of Torah, the ways of peace. Shalom. Its ways are pleasant, and all its pathways are peace. But I'm not doing things in order for people to like me. I'm doing things because Hashem has commanded me to do things. Because once I start doing things, I want people to like me. So then, if that's my overriding energy, if that's my motivation, so then if they'll like me, if I do something that goes against Hashem, then I might lean that way. And that's not how it's meant to be. Umash is a charta, and that you mentioned, we had the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, which says it's so important. Said that we should mention the words of our rabbis of blessed memory on this topic. Eino mechayev l'hishtadel b'meshichat ratzon kol habriot. Right? It's not saying that I have to make sure that everyone likes me, but rather it's kamosha amar chachamim, like one of the wise people left in their will to his children, Banai, my children, hapakat ratzon kol habriot, that to be pleasing, that everyone should like you, eino bicholatcha, that we can never do. Aval ishtadel lapik ratzon habore, right? But try to do that will of God. V'yascha ratzoi lebrio, and Hashem will make you pleased of someone that is ratzoi, willingly accepted and pleasing to people. Interesting what he says over here. As it says, V'ritzot Hashem darkei ish, when Hashem wants, is happy, is pleased with the pathway of a person, gam oivav yashlim ito, then even the enemies will end up making peace with that person. Right? If we're doing things right, then ultimately most people will recognize that and will appreciate that and will appreciate us. And it's never going to be everyone. What was the song? I think it's a James Taylor song. Right? I learned my lesson well, that you can't please everyone. He says, so you got to please yourself, but we'll say you got to please Hashem. Instead, you got to please yourself. Right? Well, it's all right now. Learn my lesson well. Is that James Taylor?
I don't think so.
No? Can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself. Actually, sounds more country than James Taylor. Yeah.
Yeah, it has a little
I think that might be Jim Croce.
Jim Croce. Okay. Either way, right? He says you got to please yourself. We'll go, you got to please Hashem. Right? B'tzot Hashem, when Hashem is happy with the darkei ish, the way of a person, gam oivav yashlim ito, then also one's enemies will make peace with that person. V'chein mi shekol abriot mikatnam va'ad gdolam modin u'mishabchim oto v'rotzim et ma'asav, and therefore someone that people from young to old, right, will admit and will praise and are pleased with this person's actions, Rayahu, that's a good indication, Ki akel yibarach, that Hashem zara lo ahava b'libo b'nei adam, that Hashem planted in the hearts of those people love for this person. So it's not that I'm out to try to please everyone, because like again, if that's the case, then when it comes to things that will please them but are going against the Ratzon Hashem, the will of Hashem, I might lean the wrong way. So rather, what it's saying is Hashem is pleased with you. If people are pleased with you, then Hashem is pleased with you. Meaning that Hashem has put into their hearts that they should be pleased with you. V'sam lo shem tov al lishonam, and God has given you a shem tov, a good name, al lishonam, in their mouths, literally on their tongues, all right, that they'll speak well about you. All right, the Mishnah elsewhere in Avos says there are different crowns. There's the crown of kahuna. There's the crown of priesthood that was only given to Aaron, Moshe's brother, and his descendants. There is the crown of royalty, of kingship, and that was given only to King David and to his descendants. And the crown of Torah, that is available for everyone to take. And then it says, V'keser shem tov, and the crown of a good name, Ola al kulam, that rises above all of them. So if you've got a shem tov, that means that God has implanted this shem tov, this good name of yours, on their lips. Hashem is happy with you, then that will translate over to them. David, yes, David?
Just a quick clarification. It was Ricky Nelson, Garden Party.
Ricky Nelson.
Yeah, from the Nelson, Ozzie, and Harriet, who, by the way, had a house in Laguna Beach. So
I'm sorry?
They had a house, I'm sure, a couple, but they had one house in Laguna Beach.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and Ozzie died in the Laguna Beach hospital. And I used to see Mrs. Nelson at the market, and everybody go, "Hi, Mrs. Nelson. Hi, boys." All right, back to work.
Yeah, it's interesting how the great entertainers in the past they were normal people. My Aunt Zelda, she should be well. She lived in the Bronx, and she told me that when she was a kid, right? She's in her 90s now, so to this day she's a big Yankee fan. And she said when she was a kid, some of the Yankee players lived in her building, and they would walk out of the building on the way to the subway to go to Yankee Stadium, and the kids would say, have a good game, and he'd say, thank you. They didn't helicopter in on their private pads over there. Yeah, interesting. Yes, thank you. Okay. So if you've got that shem tov, so then it is God's placing it there. And Hashem does not do that for those who he's not pleased with, for those who hate him. V'hu l'raya brura gedola al ritzot haboreoto. And therefore, the fact that the person the spirits of others are pleased with him and speak well about, that is a clear proof, clear indication that Hashem is ratzot. Hashem is pleased with that person. Aval sheyeh adam hachasid mishtadel v'toreach, but that this person who is a chassid, who is this righteous person, should be putting his focus and his efforts, v'toreach, and his labor, but to do it, to put effort, that people should praise me about how I'm serving Hashem, that's going down the wrong path. Ein zeh miminhagei hachasidim. Right? That is not one of the ways of that is not the ways of the righteous. Al kain, therefore, he's a her mizeh. Be very careful from this. Vadomelo, and that which is similar, mipituye, from the seductions of the Yetzer to you. Kihu mishtadel, he's trying lahadrichacha bezeh, to lead you on this path. Ad sheyapilcha b'mitzudat hachonef, until you will be joined up in the group of the flatterers, of those who spend their whole time trying to make sure everyone says good, right? Trying to flatter everyone. And therefore be very, very careful of this. And in regard, and that which he was praising you, saying, you are doing more than your share of praising God, of thanking God, and therefore now it's time to work on people. That initial praise that he gave you, umahu shitasher oti alav, midati chovat elokim alai, right? And then he's saying that you've done a great job already. You've done already your obligations. V'chiyukim latana alai leilokim. On the contrary, right? If I've got such a great awareness, then that is going to cause God to have claims on me. Eini sovel lasot kafi dati. The more I know, the clearer I am, the more that is expected of me. And if I would do all that I'm supposed to do according to my understanding of Hashem, my appreciation, hayaspik hakol odas habore. Would that really be sufficient in the thanks that I need to give to my Creator, Yisroel? Ala ktana shebetovotav alai, even for the smallest acts of kindness that he does for me. Umay midas yamai, midas yimei haolam. How many years, how many days do I have, right, compared to the days of this world? The kulam and all those days, lo yaspiku l'saper tovot habore alai, will not suffice for me to tell the good that Hashem has done for me. How could I even use all my days? How could that possibly suffice for me to pay back to Hashem all of the good that he has done for me? One of the classes we had, I forgot which class it was, but we were talking about, well, the Tehillim, Psalms ends off, Kol HaNishama Tahalal Hallelujah. All the souls, all HaNishama, all the breathing, all those who are alive should praise you, Hashem. And our sages say, Al Kol Nishima, right? Nishama, soul, comes from the Hebrew word linshom, Nishima. That's a breath, right? So Kol HaNishama, for each and every breath, I need to thank you, Hashem. Right? How many breaths do we take? Do we take in a lifetime? We made a calculation of how many times has our heart beat in a lifetime, and we did the math. Let's say 60 beats a minute. I think that's usually about average, or it's even a little bit slow. Let's say 60 a minute. So 60 times 60, right? That's in an hour. Times 24. That's in a day, times 365, that's in a year, times, and we said 65, that was the average age of the group that I was with at the time, times 65, and it came out to about 1.8 billion. 1.8 billion. If we did if the math was done correctly. 1.8 billion. 60 times 24 times 365 times 65. About 1.8 billion. I think it was 1.8 times 10 to the 9th power. That should be 9 zeros, right? And that should be a 1.8 billion, right? So with all the gratitude that we could possibly express, and all the acknowledgement, and all the doing whatever we can to try to do what Hashem asks us, right? We can never, ever, ever equal the gifts that we have. For Amar Kodesh, the pasuk says in Yeshayahu, Isaiah, Kol habasar chatzir, all of flesh and blood. Our days are like this fleeting shadow, like grass that withers. The Kol chasdo kitzitz hasadeh, And any chesed, all of our acts of kindness, all of our righteousness, is like kitzitz hasadeh. It's like a flower in the field that blooms and then it withers away. The Amru Chachamenu, and our sages, or Seinu Zechron Bracha, have said in Avos again, Im ein anili, mili, famous teaching from Hillel, Im ein anili, mili. If I'm not going to be for myself, who will be for me? Right? This speaks to the victim mentality. Right? They didn't do this for me, and they didn't come through, and because of them, we have to make sure we can't wait for others to do. For us, we need to make sure that we are doing for ourselves. Ukeshani la'atzmi ma'ani. Right? So on one level, the way I always understood it, he's learning a little bit differently. Keshani la'atzmi ma'ani. But if I'm all about myself, then what am I? Right? It's interesting. In the Amidah, we say God, we describe God as being Kel, Gadol, Gibor, V'Norah. Gadol, big, Gibor, strong, Norah, awesome. So the Vilna Gaon says, when it says God is Gadol, is big, that refers to the midah, the attribute of chesed, of kindness. Right? And in English also we use that expression. That was very big of you. That means that was very kind, generous, magnanimous. Right? So why is chesed gadol, big? Well, if I'm just taking care of myself, I am all of my, 5'9". I used to like to say 10, but it's really 9. 5'9" frame, right? That's all it is. That's all I got, right? But once I'm doing for others, then I'm gadol. Then I'm big. I'm going so far beyond myself, and I'm helping this person, involved with that person, and doing this for that person, and that for this person. That's how I become big. So that's how it was understood. Kishani la'atzmi, if I'm only all about myself, ma'ani, what am I? Right? I am so small. I'm so inconsequential. I'm just myself. That's all I am. But he's saying as follows: Kishani la'atzmi ma'ani. Even if I keep all of my mitzvot, right? Still ma'ani, right? Still, what am I? I can't possibly fulfill all that which is upon me to do. And therefore, I have to recognize that as much as I do, there's always more that I could be doing and should be doing for Hashem. And lastly, the Mishnah ends off, V'im lo achshav eimatai. And therefore, if that's the case, so then, if not now, then when, right? And therefore, right, don't say, I'll get to it, I will, people are, at the next stage, that's when I'll do it. That's when I'll have time. At every stage, there are things that take up our time and take up our energy. And the person's always saying, then, actually never happens. Just on that last piece that we mentioned before about all the praise that we need to be giving to Hashem and the thanks to Hashem. So the Gemara tells a great story of a person who went to lead the services in front of, I think it was Rabbi Yochanan, I'm not sure who it was. And he starts to praise Hashem, and he starts off great, like we see in the Amidah. Hakel, Hagadol, Hagibor, Vahanorah, like we said, Gadol, big, Gibor, strong, Nora, awesome. Then he kept going, Izuz, right, Arutz. He kept giving all these other terms. And the rabbi said to him, have you finished praising God? Meaning, have you completed? Now you've praised him fully? Right? You have to stop at a certain point. At whatever point you stop, you're going to be falling short. And he says, those three that we say, Hakel, Hagadol, Gibor, V'Norah, why do we say those three? Those are the terms that Moshe used in the Torah, in his prayer to Hashem. Okay, so we're just echoing, we're not trying to fully describe Hashem's greatness, right? We're just echoing what Moshe did, and that's perfectly legitimate. But once you go off on your own, okay, now you're on your own. Now you got to finish the job, and we'll not be able to finish the job. So we have to recognize that Hashem loves every ounce of effort that we put in, right? And we should never feel, I've done enough. Now it's time to sit back. We always need to see what more can we do, right? But our focus needs to be not on a popularity contest, right? To make sure people like me, but to be doing the right things to Hashem and to people, as we said, and that way, and then we have that great gauge that Pirkei Avos had said in chapter 3, Mishnah 10 or 13. Others have it as 13. That if you have that question, does God like me? Is God happy with me? So then, yes, if people are happy with you, then it means Hashem is happy with you. But that's when we're doing the right things along the way, and Hashem is putting that love that people have in their hearts for us. Okay, my friends, good. We'll call it over here. And like I said, next Monday I will be away. So we will pick up, please God, on June 30th. Okay?
Thank you, Rabbi. Safe travels.
Thank you very much.